Hello everyone, welcome to the second generation Genesis G80. This is an all new vehicle and the G80 is a mid-size premium sedan, and in case you don't know, Genesis is the offshoot premium brand of Hyundai, and in the past Genesis models were largely made up of pre-existing Hyundai and Kia platforms, but they were significantly modified. Here though, with the G80 and the new GV80 SUV, we're talking about vehicles that have their own dedicated Genesis platform with their own interior design and an exterior that better shows off what the brand is trying to achieve. And this is my first time getting behind the wheel of a Genesis product. There's a lot I want to talk about, so let's get onto the road right away so I can share with you all of the incredible details that I've found out with this G80 sedan. As a mid-size premium sedan, the G80 is going up against the long-established European models like the BMW 5 Series, Audi A6, and Mercedes E-Class. And more than ever, with a new Genesis product, I think the G80 really has its own personality and really quite a bit of character. But let's start off talking about the two versions of the G80. You either have a 2.5 litre four-cylinder engine or this 3.5 litre twin turbocharged V6. It makes 375 horsepower, 390 pound-feet of torque. Both engines come with an 8-speed transmission and all-wheel drive. Genesis has announced an electrified version of the G80 that will be coming to market, but we don't have too much information on that just yet. The thing that Genesis is really trying to play at is the value proposition up against some of the more established brands. So you have the two engine choices, you can change around the color, and that's it. Fairly fixed pricing. You get those benefits that Genesis is wanting to tout with things like home delivery, home pickup. When you need to take your car in for a service, they'll come and get your car and leave another one with you. And the G80 has very similar starting prices to its rivals, but the starting price is also where the buck stops, so to say, with the G80, because there's no more additional cost options, and you have so much technology in here that it's really quite hilarious, the length of the standard features list for the G80. You are going to get some additional benefits if you go with the larger engine, such as the Napa leather trimming, the 12.3-inch 3D digital instrument cluster, soft closing doors, 20-inch rims, electronic control suspension with road preview, amongst many other things, but I think those are the most noteworthy elements to this 3.5 litre engine and all the benefits that come with it. I want to start talking about the driving experience, because if you discredit this Genesis for being a South Korean product, for being related to a Hyundai or a Kia to some extent, then I really think you are going to be causing a disservice to yourself, because the driving focus of this G80 is exactly what you should expect. The G80 is all about cruising, and the way that the steering wheel spokes are set up, it's like you've just got to lightly flex on your forearms to influence the steering angle. If you regularly do long commutes on a highway, this G80 I think will be everything that you're looking for. And the seats are just spectacular, no other way to put it. But if you're buying a premium car, a luxury car, because you want the most road isolation, you want as much of your dollar going into sound deadening materials, if you don't try out this Genesis, you're making a mistake. I'm just putting that out there right now, that the road isolation and the wind is as good as many six-figure vehicles that I have experienced in the past. The suspension system used in this G80 is very conventional. No air springs available in this product, so something like an Audi A6 I think has it beat in terms of that floatiness that you might want in a premium car. But comparing it to other vehicles in this class that have the same conventional suspension setup, it really is as good as. Ride quality is superb. There's a little bit of body roll in the corners, but that's a compromise I'm willing to have if it means that I have a more comfortable cruising vehicle. The 3.5 litre twin turbocharged V6 is a pretty stout engine. It's not perfect though. I've noticed a little bit of rev hang, and if you're at a stop, there's a little bit of clicking noises coming into the cabin. But what you don't feel is any vibrations. Put your hand down along the carpeted center tunnel, rest your arms anywhere. The engine is just fading away in the background, just like the rest of the world, really. And the Lexicon sound system that's in this model is one of the best systems I have encountered. It's, in my opinion, better than quite a few Bang & Olufsen sound systems I've experienced in Audis and BMWs. This just seems to have a lot more depth, a lot more punch to it, even in its standard configuration. You almost never notice the transmission working away. It is incredibly refined, never interrupts power delivery, and at most cruising speeds, you're sitting at about 1250 RPM. The whole powertrain setup of this G80 has really impressed me. Let's move over to the interior now, because this is a major focus for anybody buying in this space. You want your money to go towards something, and in this model with the Nappa leather, they're obviously getting the same supplier that BMW and Audi uses for their products. It's just as rich, just as soft, and is in most of the areas that you regularly touch and feel. But it's obvious that with the G80, they're still cutting corners here and there to maybe get to that price point that they want to. So, for example, you see a lot of fake leathers across the cabin, and where they are used, they're largely very spongy, very soft. Further ahead in the dashboard, you can see that graininess that doesn't match up so well to the smoothness of the blue Nappa leather in here. So for the individuals that buy BMWs and Audis because they want that full leather dash, they won't be satisfied in that requirement here. Adding on to that, there is a bit of flex in most of the components that you wouldn't see in an Audi. And to be fair, there have been a few times where there's been a little bit of creaks found in the interior when you go over some really rough roads. Pressing down on stuff, you have that same effect that you do in some of the latest Mercedes. Depending on your perspective of what luxury is and what premium build is, the Genesis G80 might not satisfy you. The real wood trim is fantastic, and this combination of brown and blue leather interior really speaks to me. I love that with this G80 and what we're seeing from quite other Genesis products is that they're really making their own stance on style. Yes, you can go with something safe like black or cream or brown, but you can have something quite daring like this, and that to me is very attractive. All right, so let's now talk about the technology in this G80. As standard, you get the 14.5-inch wide and short touchscreen that works incredibly well, very snappy. Now, I like this main screen setup where on the side with your time and music information, you have this background of weather that is fairly accurate to the weather that you're currently experiencing, and a kind of transparent layout for your navigation system. It might be a touch out of reach for shorter drivers, but that's where this rotary wheel setup comes into play, and it isn't as intuitive as what you would find in BMW's iDrive, let's say, but once you figure it out, it is quite logical. You have the big silver ring that rotates, and you can select by clicking down anywhere on it. And then you also have this touch sensitive piece in the middle where you can swipe songs and then move over to other menus too. It's not too complicated that you couldn't figure it out in the dealership, but maybe you would need a little bit of a guiding hand to start off with. There's a feature in this vehicle that I was particularly excited to try out once I knew I was going to get my hands on this G80, and that's the 3D digital display. Now, it's useless for me trying to show it off to you on camera because you've got a little sensor above that's tracking my eyes to create this 3D depth effect. And when you first get into the car, there's no doubt that it's a little peculiar. You're spending a lot of time looking at it, and because of that, I think it can wear down on your eyes a little bit. But once you accept the fact that it's there and it works, it becomes a lot more easier of a system to regularly glance down at, and it does work very well for that application. You can see that the center part of the screen and a few other bits at the bottom are the closest to you, and the speed and the tack needle is the second and third level away. You can reduce it down or turn it off completely, and when you do turn it off completely, you will have much sharper graphics than what you do in this 3D mode. It might not be for everyone, but it is subtle enough after a little bit of use. So do I like it? Well, I mean, it works, but I would rather have it off and have the sharper graphics to make it feel like a much more richer, much more expensive display. And talking about the second row, the Genesis G80 does have 3 seat belts, but it's obviously built for 2 back there, and me sitting behind myself, apart from being a bit tight on the headroom, is very good back there. Seats are supremely comfortable, plenty of knee room, and you can fold down what would be the center seat to have a nice big armrest, and back there you can change around your climate settings. You've got heated rear seating, and you'll see that there's a ski pass-through. The seats don't fold down at all, but you have a sizable boot that anybody going on a long road trip with 4 passengers, you will comfortably be able to fit all of your items into the back of the G80. So the Genesis G80 isn't quite there when we're talking about the latest BMW 5 Series or A6 and all the rest of it, because I think there's a lot of people out there that want that final degree, that final percentage of being the best vehicle on the market. And where Genesis isn't able to match that, I think they are matching that in terms of affordability and some of the benefits that come along with Genesis ownership, as I mentioned earlier. And for me, this has been a very convincing vehicle to show what Genesis is capable of doing in terms of engineering a very successful product. There's no doubt in my mind that this G80 is a brilliant vehicle. It's just going to take quite a bit of convincing for other shoppers out there to let go of their Mercedes or their Audi. But I promise you that if you go and test drive one of these things, it will impress you in more ways than one. With the second generation of Genesis G80 and the future vehicles that are coming up for the brand, I think the brand really does have its own identity and values clearly stated. And I think the appeal of this company will grow as they make more and more products and they get more and more customers. So to conclude what I want to say about the G80, I think it requires a little bit of your own self-analysis to determine what it is you want out of a premium car. Like I mentioned about the ride quality and road isolation, I think this is the most accomplished element of the G80. So if a premium vehicle to you means separation from the outside world, you have to consider the G80. So my closing statement on this vehicle is that the Genesis G80 is an excellent product. So please do yourself a favor by trying one out and really thinking about what it is that you're looking for in a mid-size executive sedan. So thank you very much for taking the time to watching this video. Please let me know your thoughts on this G80, and I hope to hear from you soon.